Hi guys. I've only got like 9% on my phone, which is what I'm recording this on. So I need to make this quick. Basically what I want to do today is talk about Hounds of Love by Kate Bush. Kate Bush is one of my favorite artists like ever. I have her entire discography on like CD and everything because I think she's just such an amazing artist. Her music is probably like the pinnacle of pop, like just in general. Like I don't think there's been a single pop artist ever before or since Kate Bush, essentially. And Hounds of Love is like her most popular album because it's like the one with that one song, the first one, Running Up That Hill, which is like it's a really good song, but it's also like super popular, which is like why I decided to talk about this. Even though I would say it's probably my second favorite Kate Bush album, I think my favorite Kate Bush album is and probably also forever will be The Dreaming because it's just I don't know. I have this like connection to it, like this personal connection to it, and it's also the album that I listen to the most because it's a really good like casual listen. I feel like with Hounds of Love, you really need to if you're hearing like crinkling sounds and stuff. It's I'm picking up the CD. It's like wrapped in this like plastic bag. Um, I think for Hounds of Love, you need to like sit down and like actually listen to the album. You need to like sit down and like listen to it like you're watching a movie essentially. Which I don't know if I can say that in the year 2026 anymore because I know like the whole like I know that like movies nowadays they like repeat things because they the producers or whoever are sort of going off the assumption that you're doing something else while watching the movie, and so that's why like characters repeat themselves. That was like a whole thing. But I mean, like you're actually like sitting down and listening to the album and like following the story because like the entire B side is like this mini concept album essentially. But we will get to the B side. I sort of want to start talking about like the A side, the like first couple of tracks. I think if we're going like off of like just album sides in general, I'd say maybe this is like the best album side of the 80s, easily. And it even, I would say, clears some of the songs on The Dreaming, because there's just so many high moments on this. I think particular highlights for me would be The Big Sky. I just love how catchy that song is, and I love how just how immediate, how kind of snappy it is. It's very locked into the groove. I really like that. It's really awesome. And then we also have another one of my favorites is Cloud Busting. I love the strings on that. It kind of feels bouncy to me. I don't know why. And also there's this lyric that's like, hold on, let me actually open up the CD. You're getting some crazy ASMR sounds in here. Hold on. There's this lyric in there that's like, your son's coming out, and that reminded me of this thing when I was first listening to it. That reminded me of this like one event that happened a few years ago in my life that I liked. My friends and I like to call it the Yaoi Incident. It's it's sort of like I got reminded of it as I was listening to it because it's literally the lyric is literally your son's coming out. So I guess you could like see how it could correlate to like the Yaoi Incident. I actually, you know what? Let me explain the Yaoi Incident while we're talking about this because basically a little bit of background that you need to know. I in 2023 I lived in a different town. So I went to a different school. Now I left that school along with a bunch of other people, and we like moved cities and everything. Because of what we like to call, like the people at the school like to call this moment the speech. It was essentially like this thing that like this tangent that one of our teachers went on that was like completely insane, and we were like, we don't feel comfortable going to this school anymore, and so we just sort of like a lot of us just sort of changed schools and left that school, and we sort of went our own way. But that's a story for another day. I'm here to talk about the Yaoi incident. So, this happened when I was going to that school in 2023. And essentially the like way, like a normal day would go for me, was like, I lived like it was a 2 minute walk from like where I lived to the school. And so essentially I would like get up at like 7 and then get ready by like 7:15. I don't know, brush my teeth and put on clothes. And pack my bag or whatever, and then just like go to school, like leave home at like 7:25. I'd be in the classroom by 7:28, and the first lesson would start at 7:30. So, and the same thing would be like would happen when I would come home from school. So I would essentially like finish lessons at like 1 p.m., let's say, and then I would be home by like 1:05. Right. So that's like really important to mention because at the same time, you also need to know that my parents used to work like long hours on Sunday on some days. I almost said Sundays. They did not work on Sundays. They still don't work on Sundays. My parents used to work from like 8 to like 4 on some days, which is like, I think that's like regular working hours now that I say it. But that essentially meant that like I would be home by 1 and I would have 3 hours to myself. So like I could do whatever I want. And most of this time was spent recording stuff, videos, I don't know, doing streams or whatever, because I used to stream. If you didn't know, I used to stream Geometry Dash, and I used to like take level requests and stuff. I could go into like what happened on those streams as well, but and I would also like record music, I don't know, vocals, piano or whatever, and I would do something in FL Studio, and I would, so it was kind of cool, like those 3 hours, like I would just like do random stuff. Of course, one of those things would be having fun by myself. I don't know if I can say what I explicitly did, because I'm trying to keep this YouTube video clean, squeaky clean. So I'm gonna use a lot of I'm gonna beat around the bush a lot. But just if you know what's happening, like if you just sort of follow along, you'll understand. So I sometimes used to do that. I sometimes used to just have fun by myself, looking at content of other people also having fun, as one does when they indulge in this activity. And around this time, I sort of always had like an inkling that like I was like not the gender I was assigned at birth. Like I sort of knew all my life. Like I always had this like sort of like, I would say that like until I was like 11, I had like this, I had this weird feeling that I like couldn't like assign a word to. And then somebody, like I saw it maybe on the internet or maybe on like TV or whatever, like, oh, like, the word for that is transgender. And then I was like, oh, that's the thing, right? And then, I just sort of like, like that's essentially like how I came to find out. Is that how you say it? I don't know. Anyway, I'm at 8%, so I gotta, hurry up because we gotta get to the rest of this review. So in 2023, I was 15. So I had already sort of like made up my mind around this whole like trans thing. Like I didn't make up my mind. I just sort of explored, like I knew, right? I knew like who I was. And one day I was, and this is where we get into the Yaoi incident. That was all like the background and stuff. One day when I was like alone, waiting for my parents to come home, right after coming home from school, I was like, yo, I am really in the mood right now. I am so in the mood. And I would go, I would always like sort of try and look up different forms of that kind of content just to like explore, because it's kind of cool, like you're sort of curious, you like switch it up every now and then. You're sort of like, I know that like everybody has their like own little thing, but like you never know when you might find like the next thing that you're interested in, right? So I would always like go on like subreddits and stuff and sort of look at different, forms and different uh topics and niches, right? Like, and I would sort of look all those up, and I don't know, something on this day was like, I could probably like look at some yaoi maybe, because I've never done that. I don't know. Maybe I like it, and especially because I knew that a lot of like men were like interested in the content of two two women sort of doing the activity, sort of having fun together. So I was like, okay, maybe me, like maybe I as like a woman could probably like watch or look at yaoi and sort of feel kind of this interesting, sensation. Maybe it might help me. Maybe it's gonna be really awesome and cool. Also, I forgot to mention around this time, like I only had this information to myself, right? Like the like fact that I was trans and everything. Like my mom had no idea. My dad had no idea. Like none of my real life friends had any idea. I think I only mentioned it to like one of my online friends, and like that was it. So I'm sort of doing my business, right? And sort of looking at pictures. If you don't know, like the on the Yaoi subreddit, you can filter. There's like flares. There's like post flares. If you want to see like memes, if you want to see something wholesome, or if you just want to get like into the graphic stuff. And I wanted to get into the graphic stuff because that was the thing that I was doing. If I wanted to look at something wholesome, I would look at something wholesome. I'd be like, oh, that's so cute. It's two boys being involved romantically. Like that's cool. But it's like, I'm here for the freaky stuff. So, I set up the filters so it would only show me like the graphic, like the smut essentially. And then as I'm doing this, I get a call from my mom, and I'm like, okay, like, like she calls me regularly, like after like when I come home from school to like make sure that I'm okay, and then tell me like what I can like eat for lunch or whatever. Because I used to like eat lunch like after coming home from school. And essentially, wait, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so I get a call from my mom, and she's talking to me about something. I don't know, like like what did you do at school? Like, how was your day or whatever. And then she started talking about something about like how she had like a conversation with my dad in the morning when they both like went to work or whatever, like because they both drove to work in like the same car, and then one of them would like leave the car, would exit the car to like they would make a stop at the one person's workplace, and then the person who was left in the car would like drive to their own workplace. Like that's essentially like how my parents went to work. So that's sort of how my mom sort of came to like the topic of like what conversation she was having with my dad in the morning. And I don't know, she just wanted to inform me about something. I don't know, they like had an argument or something. So but that shit like took like 5 minutes. So I swore. Ugh. I think I can still monetize it because it's past the 8-second mark. Who knows? And so I sort of, I was sort of listening to her. I kind of had like, one hand was busy. And then with the other one, I don't know, I tried to do something else. I don't know what it was in the moment. I think I tried to like grab something. So I essentially had my phone pressed between my cheek and my shoulder, as one does when, they want to do some hands-free communication. So, you're holding your phone like between your cheek and your shoulder. That's sort of what I did. And I felt as I was sort of doing this, I was walking around, I was trying to, I don't know, I think I went to the kitchen, to like check for like food or whatever. I don't know. I think my mom also wanted me to like see if like the stove was on or whatever. And so I sort of, I had my phone pressed against my cheek and my shoulder this entire time. And as I was walking, I like felt like very, not vividly, what's the word? I like felt a very discernible vibration of my phone. Like I felt that something like vibrated. Like I sort of, like I felt that 100%. But I was like, whatever, like I probably hit the mute button or something, or I probably, disconnected from my like Bluetooth headphones or whatever. It's like not that big of a deal. And so, I was walking around, whatever. My mom sort of finishes her conversation, and she's like, okay, well, bye, see you later, and hangs up. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can now keep doing the thing that I wanted to do. And so I continue with the activity of having fun, and I was looking at other pictures, not really thinking much of anything. I saw that I got like 3 messages, one after the other, on like WhatsApp, because that's what my family uses to communicate, because we're in Europe, and WhatsApp is like crazy big here. And this was before like Signal was a huge thing, because now that's like what most people use, I think, if they're not idiots. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I didn't really mean to offend anybody that uses WhatsApp. I'm just saying there's better options out there. There's safer options, and there's options that are not owned by multi-billion-dollar corporations. So just look into Signal, and then come back and watch this video. And so, I got like the 3 WhatsApp messages. I didn't know like what it was, but I just saw them like just come in like one after the other. Like my phone was vibrating because like, notifications. But I didn't read them because I was like so immersed, so focused into like I was so focused in the act, in the content that I was watching. So I sort of couldn't really, I couldn't look at what the messages were right away, because I was like, because I'm sort of the type of person that like, once they're like immersed in the act, like I need to like finish that before I can look at anything else. So, I essentially what happens is I arrive, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. I went to the bathroom. I sort of cleaned up, and I put, I like, I sort of restored myself after arriving, after concluding the act. And I'm like, okay, now I can look at the messages. Now I can see what people want from me. And so I was like, okay, let's just open up WhatsApp. And I saw there was 3 messages from my mom. And I'm like, okay, didn't we just talk? Like, didn't we just have a conversation on the phone? Like, why are you texting me? Like, why is, I thought you had said everything, but apparently not. And so I go into our like message history, and my face, I could feel like my face turning red. And it's not for the reasons that you think, but I'll get to that. So I pull up the message history, and I see that 5 minutes ago, like 5 minutes before me looking at this, I had sent her a link to the thing that I was looking at on Reddit, the Yaoi. And then the 3 messages that I got were essentially the same thing, but just with a different, with a differing amount of question marks after the sentence. So all of them essentially said, "You're gay?" with like the series of question marks after. And like I said, this was when, this, like, my mom, like, has no idea that anything, like, and, like, thinks I'm, like, a straight guy, whatever. So I'm like, okay, this is horrible for me. Not because of any of, like, the any, like, I'm not in, like, of course it's, not something that you want to do, to do. You don't want to, like, send that kind of material to somebody close to you or somebody in your family. That's, like, not really a thing that people want to see or that people want to share. So obviously that's, like, a factor in this whole thing. But essentially the main, like, issue that I had with it was that I felt that, like, I couldn't explain that, I couldn't explain without, like, my mom essentially not listening to me, that watching and looking at this content, looking at Yaoi as what we assume is a man, does not make you gay. I could not prove that to her because I knew that she would not listen, because she just sort of jumped to the conclusion, oh, my, like, my child is watching this content, therefore they are this and that person. Which is, like, such a weird, like, thing to say, because it's like, okay, can we apply this to other things? Because, like, I know that, like, when other men sort of watch this type of content, and especially if it's, like, a man and a woman having fun, they sort of insert themselves into the role of the man. And so why would they then watch two women having fun? Like, if the entire point of the content is to insert yourself into it, like, why would they want to insert themselves into women? Oh, well, they would like to insert themselves into, you know what I mean? Insert themselves into the experience, the role, like, into the experience and the role of a woman. I don't think they would like to do that. So what type of content you look at does not necessarily mean that you're this and that person. Same thing with, like, let's say I wanted to read, like, Mein Kampf or something. Now, I am a communist, right? I don't like Hitler. I think he's a horrible person, but I would still like to know what was going on in that stupid head of his. So if I just said that, oh, I have read Mein Kampf, does that necessarily mean that I agree with everything that guy says in his book? No, of course not. So why would me watching Yaoi be gay if I was a man? I don't understand this. So, but, I could say all of this to my mom, and then she still would not, like, let go of this thought that, like, oh, I'm gay, I'm fucking, I'm a boy who likes to fuck other boys, and that's why cut that out. I just realized that I said that. This video is probably going to be demonetized now. That's bad. But, oh, I'm a boy that likes to have fun with other boys and enjoys that act. And that's why I look at the Yaoi. Like, that's essentially going to be her conclusion. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to let it go. I texted her, like, I can explain, but you're not going to listen. That's sort of what I said. And then I even tried to call her several times, and then she just wouldn't pick up. I don't know why. Like, she's kind of, like, a little homophobic, so, I was always sort of, like, careful around her and everything, but, and also, like, I forgot to mention this, she would technically be right, because I am attracted to men, but I'm also attracted to all other types of people. And me looking at Yaoi was just sort of like oh, this is kind of like, because, I'm not trying to say it's like a bad thing, but, society recognizes this as, like, something scandalous and something taboo, and, it's sort of like an interesting factor to the whole thing. And so, essentially, I tried to call her and she wouldn't pick up because I feel like she was just, like boiling. She was so angry. But I feel like even in that angry moment, she probably had, like, some sense of, like, okay, like, my child did not mean to do that. And so, I can just, I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut. I'm not gonna tell this to my child's dad and everything. Like I'm not gonna do this. So, because, and I think that this is what happened, because when my parents came home, because they came home at the same time, like the thing that I said, like with one person, going to one workplace and then the other person driving to, like the thing, they also picked each other up that way. So, sorry. Essentially, when my like parents came home, like there was no word of the thing that happened, right? And I was kind of weirded out by that, because I thought like there probably would be something that my mom would say, but like she just didn't say anything. And like after that, like even when we were like alone or whatever, like even when my dad was not around, like we did not talk about this. So I don't know if she just forgot, or if she just sort of wants to not like, she wants to like not believe that it's real. So I don't really know what's happening there, what's going on. But that's essentially the Yaoi incident, and it's kind of ongoing, because she could always sort of mention this at any given moment if she remembers it, and like we could continue this saga essentially, my mom and I, by just talking about what happened, and maybe because there's so much distance, she could actually listen, but I have no idea like what could happen. So that's why when I listen to Cloud Busting by Kate Bush, I think of that incident, because it was kind of like I sort of quote unquote outed myself. Even though that's not really what I did, because there's no correlation between the yaoi and my, the people that I'm attracted to, as we have established. So that's why when I like read the lyrics, "Oh, your son's coming out," it kind of like reminds me of that. And then the rest of the album is also really good. I like the sort of mini concept album. Probably one of my favorite songs ever. It might be my favorite song of all time, is "The Morning Fog," because it just closes off the album so nicely. It's like, oh, like you went through this like horrible stuff. You were stranded, alone, and then people sort of saved you from these like emotional depths. I know it's concrete, like what happens in this album, because it's like a person that's lost at sea and everything, but it's very metaphorical, and you can essentially take it to mean, oh, like these people that are around in my life, I called out for help because I wasn't doing okay, and then they sort of saved me, and now I have sort of this new outlook on life, and I think everything is beautiful, and I would like to continue living. And that's sort of what The Morning Fog represents. It's this wave of relief that happens when you realize, hey, it's actually not all bad. And that's sort of why I like The Morning Fog. That's probably my favorite song ever, just in general. I don't think anything comes close to it. I think there's a handful of tracks that Kate Bush has made and that other artists have made that are sort of close to this in terms of like how much I enjoy them, but nothing comes close to like the visceral emotions that I feel when I hear that like Android ringtone ass guitar, which sounds like an insult. It sounds like I'm saying that it's bad, but it's actually not. It's really good. So that's essentially all I have to say on Hounds of Love. I know I went on like a little bit of a tangent, but that's sort of, I just wanted to clear out the like background information, and sort of talk about why it reminds me of the Yaoi incident, just to make sure that you fully understand it. Because I also have this like issue with, for example, like a lot of like books that I read, a lot of like political science, political theory books, they always reference, or they always like say that they are responding to a certain author, but then they don't say what that work is or what that author said for them to respond and to critique their work. So it makes reading it without having the background knowledge kind of difficult. But that's essentially what like the issue that I have with a lot of works is like you're sort of having like a lot of missing context, and so I just tried to fill up the context so you could have enough of it to like understand why I have this specific connection with cloud busting. Okay, my phone is still not dead. It's at 5%. So I would call this video or this audio recording, because I'm gonna add gameplay to it later. I will call this recording a success. And I would like to thank you for listening if you made it this far and if you didn't skip to the end. So thank you so much for watching. And let me know if I should make more of these. Let me know if I should review The Dreaming, because that's my favorite Kate Bush album. Or let me know if I should review anything else, really. Like, I'm up for anything. And I could probably talk about other things too, like the speech that I mentioned. If you want to learn more about that, and if you just want to like learn more about, you know, my life and all the stuff I went through, maybe I could like make one like video about that or something, or sort of tie it into an album review. So yeah. Okay, that's gonna be it from me. Have a great day, and listen to Hounds of Love right now. Whatever you're doing, just put it on in the background. And even if you've listened to it, even if you know it by heart, every single second of it, you just, like, you know, do it again. Just listen to it again. If you hate the album, there's your chance maybe you'll come around to it. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video, in the next album review.